Fyaahstarr TV, I am Mama C, and today I'm joined by Jae Woodward, aka Woodward TV on YouTube. He's my absolute favourite YouTube. I have binge watched every single one of his episodes, so I am slightly gassed today. Welcome, Jae. How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm very good, particularly good today, particularly good. So many questions to ask you. So, first of all, there's like a theme throughout all of your videos where you do have this very spiritual undertone and you refer to the Bible a lot. Did you have any sort of spiritual upbringing in any particular religion?
I was raised, my mother, she is Jehovah's Witness.
Cool, yeah,
So
totally.
I was raised in that religious belief system.
Hmm.
So as you know, they start us very young. So you are essentially learning Bible scripture at a very young age. And then as you get older, you start to become familiar with what they do in their congregation. And it really becomes up to you at that point if you want to pursue further studies in Bible studies. But I always remained a Bible student. I was never baptized in their congregation. Uh, I did find my time or my experience uh, very, very good. It was a very pleasant experience. Everyone was very, very nice people, very conservative. They, I think their belief system is grounded and rooted in Christianity and Judaism, but it stands apart from other religions in that the organization is a little bit different in the way they organize things.
Hmm.
Uh, but that's my religious background. Uh, I think that was the basis for my spiritual background. Uh, from adulthood on, I just took it upon myself to do my own studies outside of the congregation. Not that, I'm just not really a congregation person, as of right now. I think we go through different phases in our lives where, sometimes that fits, and then sometimes you kind of want to branch off and try to find your own truth.
Hmm.
And so that's where I am today.
Were there any particular answers that you weren't having answered for you that made you want to sort of branch off?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Were there any answers that you were sort of going to your elders about and sort of asking that you weren't able to get answered, which is what made you want to branch off?
No, it was more of the fact that I changed my lifestyle. So I was going from the home to I just started college, so I was experiencing different things, and
Mm-hmm.
that took me basically ripped me from that whole routine, I guess you
Mm-hmm.
could say.
Okay.
So it was never really a concrete thing in my life to they would they would regularly meet on 3 times a week, uh, sometimes more. I was out on the field with them at times, but like I said, everything overall was pretty pleasant. But I just didn't. I was ripped away from that, from the college experience and other things that I was into. So but I that whole the Bible never left me. The scriptures never left me. The whole concept of God and the Creator and everything else, that never left. So that always stuck, and I always used the Bible as a reference to go back to whatever research I'm doing, whenever I'm looking into other texts and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the questions that I always had were, I mean, they were answered for me early on. I just needed to get more details into
Mm-hmm.
certain things, into certain happenings, so that I could not predict what was going to happen because it's written, but to prepare spiritually for those
Yeah.
for those events.
Mm-hmm. And would you say that it was the, is it, I mean, would you still class that as Christianity abroad, or would you not define yourself by a specific title of a religion?
No, I wouldn't say like I said, I don't belong to any congregation or anything like that. So I really don't take up any religion in that sense, of church and the foundation of gathering of people. The idea of that is that you have like-minded individuals in one place that can manifest a mastermind, which is a unique form of worship. And then there's the private, more sacred form of worship, which is what I'm into. I do pray, so but everything is more of it's more sacred thing for me at this point, because I'm still learning a lot of things. And it's for example, the Bible is there's well over 200 different versions out there in different languages. And if you ask someone a question about maybe a particular Bible verse or some person in the Bible, you probably get a different answer from each person that you asked. And the reason for that, it's very confusing. And that's how confusing it is, that you'll have different answers. So there's different interpretations, and those are just opinions. What's written is what's written. Now, it's been written in different editions. And every time you have a new edition of something, that basically means it's been edited. And, but the format is still there. The stories are still intact. You have the same stories around the globe, but because you have different languages, when something is written and it's years later and you have to take a scroll, you first have to, you can't just translate that language into English or into Arabic or into Hebrew. You have to decode it. So you have to actually find out what it's like. You have to find out what object represents an apple, and that has to be consistent. So there's different aspects to that, and there's different writings that date back that far, different accounts, but pretty much they're very similar. So it would be like I'm reporting the news from where I am, and you're reporting the same news from where you are. So if the stories are going to come out a little bit different, they're going to be the same story, essentially. You might have a few different numbers than me. If that gets recorded, then that's what's going to get found, and that's why you have these variations around the world.
So, we was talking about how there are all these different stories that go around, and there's the Noah's flood, and it's sort of mentioned in ancient texts and then brought forward through the ages. Do you think that these stories have been watered down and we're missing pieces of information in the current Bible?
Yes, there's a lot of details missing from the Bible. You can look into other texts and fit in those pieces. Once you start doing that, you will develop a better picture. And then you'll start to realize why certain things are said the way they are said in scripture. And you'll start to realize that a lot of this is not, a lot of it is science. And a lot of this is not anything mystical at all. It's actually the physics. I always look at the Bible and think of how would this look in reality versus what you would see in a movie. And, of course, truth is stranger than fiction. So everything is going to turn out to be much more bizarre than you can imagine it to be based on just one scriptural, a volume of books. Okay.
So do you think it's necessary then to read other texts and other religious texts?
Yeah, there's a saying, an educated man knows the Bible, but who does that apply to? People who just believe in the Bible or people who read it? So, it is definitely a thing that if you are serious about your research, you will look into other texts, because you're going to want to know the missing details. You're going to, because there's always going to be that thing in your mind that you can't get past until you have that information in front of you, so you can see and compare, and you can, you know, make an informed opinion.
And from your opinion, which would you say is probably the best, i.e., the most life-saving concepts versus the darkest religions that you've come across? Which is your top one and worst, best and worst?
Of course, the biblical scriptures would sit at the top as a, you know, based on the research I've done, there's everything else seems to be fragmented. I know the reason for that. We can't get our hands on that information. A lot of this stuff is stored in libraries that are not open to the public. You basically have to be a secret society member for to look at some of these ancient texts that people have in their houses. So, you know, when you have that, and you have studies, you have the scholars who write detailed documents on these things. You can use those as resources as well, because those people actually go in and they lay it out. They do a real detailed search, and you can find bits and pieces of information from these different sources. And as time goes on, because this is why people get PhDs in biblical studies, because this actually this is a lifetime's worth of work to find out, you know, these details. Okay? It goes beyond than what you accept as the truth, you know, the simple truth. But yeah, if you want to know certain details that are missing, and you have those questions in front of you, you can start there. You can look at closely related texts like the Book of Enoch, Jubilees, the Apocrypha. There's so many different texts that relate.
Which edition of the Bible do you refer to most of all? Which one do you like? If you're going to just take a quote from one of your videos, which format or version of the Bible would you use?
I tend to jump around. I tend to use different versions as long as the idea is there. Because, you know, of course, that's not the original text. So there's no way outside of English, you know, for me anyways, outside of English to put something in front of someone, you know, if I want to reference a verse or anything like that. But if I'm looking for a particular verse, you know, there'll be, you can go, you probably know this, you go and do a search on a particular verse, and it will be a list of the different versions from the different printings of the Bible. So, or, you know, some are updated, some are very old. I tend to lean on the ones that are older, because they're less tampered with. There's an agenda, but the agenda is split. So you have people who, it's not just like about Agenda 21 or Agenda 2030, anything like that. There are several agendas, and they can choose any one of these agendas to any one of these paths to travel down. And basically, it's like this shotgun approach. They're gonna put all these things in place and see what works the best. They can afford to do that, and they have a lot of time. Well, they did have a lot of time. Now their time is running out. Apparently, they're behind in their time. So they could have like 50 different tracks to go down. And so they'll put in different narratives, and they will see what attracts people the most, and that's what they're going to go with. Now there's a split between the things they were doing, the things they were causing to happen, and now there are natural occurrences happening that we still think it's them, but it's not them. These things are starting to happen naturally. And this is the time where they are this is crunch time for them. So that's why you have all these different things going on all at once right now. And they are blatantly, it's beyond crazy. They are blatantly lying in your face. They don't even care anymore. So it's come to an end game point for them. So whatever plans they want to execute right now, that's it. This is their last chance. This is their window of opportunity to get certain things done, such as their programs they have, space and everything like that. They have a window of opportunity, and they know certain things that they can't hide anymore. So they've been doing a pretty good job of hiding things. They've been allowing for things to get leaked as to give rise to conspiracy theories, so that people will believe that alternative narrative versus their narrative, and so they get caught in this little control link where that's how they control that portion of the population. Okay.
Do you think that the pandemic that's just happened, do you think that was an agenda by them, or do you think that was them responding to an unknown source that they're just trying to now get on top of?
Okay, so that is something that you could say is it's set up. The whole thing is set up for one thing to lead to another. You have a lot of compartmentalization. Okay, so even if one person is in Wuhan doing one thing, that doesn't mean people over here know about it. There may be one or two people who do, but that essentially is compartmentalized by them. They might just say, hey, listen, we need you to go work on this. We're not going to tell you why. Okay. And it may be 5, 10 years down the line where something happens and something is released. They're not, you know what I mean? So you have that confusion within the chain of command, and that's how it works. That's how they keep secrets. That's how they keep everyone, they keep a close lock on everyone who's involved. So later on, those people, even though they may have been instructed to do certain things, they probably had no idea of what it would lead to and what position they would have to play later on. And that puts them in a compromising position, but they're there to take the hit. They're there to take the fall for all of this. As we move on from this, things will come out. Things will be exposed, and they already are. The news is already starting to turn on itself. It's starting to eat it's starting to cannibalize itself. As you can see, you've seen news reporters just go at each other. And that is one way to get the population to do the same thing. And so, well, I'll just say this. A normal virus, when there's a normal outbreak, any type of virus, okay? You can take Ebola, for example. That virus struggles to spread. Ebola is spread by bodily fluid, okay? So that's why when someone succumbs to that virus, the virus, its intention is to spread. And the only way that this virus, that Ebola virus, can do that is it has to cause you to bleed out. It has to cause you to, that's why you have this projectile vomit. The intent is to get you to spread that fluid out, and that's how it spreads. And that's basically how people get infected with this. That does not affect everyone the same way. Okay? That depends on your immune system. The virus, that virus could take 2 to 5 years to go global if it were to continue to spread. But most viruses are seasonal. So in other words, after the season is over, the virus is done. The virus is already any virus is already having a hard time trying to spread through a human being. It's much easier to spread through animals and insects and things like that. It's very difficult. The human body is very resilient. It's very powerful when it comes to these things. So giving that into account, that it takes such a long time for a virus, any virus to spread, they struggle. Think about any virus that has ever existed. When was the last time you heard of any virus going global in a matter of months? Okay, so with that said, it should give you a very good idea of the setup involved for that. Okay. The other thing is, if you were to look at the numbers in your own local community, and you were to, I mean, where have you ever heard of them? You know, when you get reports about like the flu, when you get a report about the number of cases and the number of deaths, those are for 1 year. This is something they have a ticker for something that's been going on. Where have you heard of them having a ticker for a virus for multiple years? Since 2019, it's 2021 now. So we're going to have the same ticker up, just piling on. And if you actually do the math in your own local community or wherever you live, and you just look at the numbers and you divide those numbers across that length of time, you will see we're talking about 2-3 people per day in deaths. You know?
Yeah.
That's the reality. More people die by accident.
Yeah.
So, you know, for this is how they get people. They've been studying this. They have the simulations. They know. They've been working the simulations over and over and over again. They've been working on certain things for a very long time. So they know exactly the right time, because they've attempted to do this several times before. And each time they had to stop, but it was to rework some of the kinks and get some of those things worked out so that it would be more successful later on. And here we are with, you know, it's a man-made situation.
Do you think this is the mark of the beast?
It is a type of mark of the beast.
In terms of the I call it the vaccine. I don't say the V word, the vaccine.
Oh, the injection? Yeah. Yeah, that is that's a whole nother thing.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Well, let's go a bit lighter then. Let's go a bit lighter. One of my favourite videos of yours is the Thoth video. I was just completely, as soon as I heard that, the tale of Thoth, it was quite mesmerising, that, you know, the concept of us being a star trapped within a man. Do you still think that these are fallen entity writings, or do you think that they are holier texts?
So if you set certain standards, okay, you won't have any confusion of what's holy and what's, you know, written by other beings or other people. So let's go slow. So if you have, we'll start from the beginning, okay? So you have these fallen angels, okay? There's something like 200 who came down to take women as wives. They took them, okay? This wasn't, you know, a submissive type of thing. They didn't come down because they were attractive. They were attracted to them, but they didn't come down for that reason. They came down because they wanted to have children. They wanted to have offspring, okay? This would be a form of their creation of you know, different type of being, their version of man, okay? They were successful only because they were allowed to do that, okay? when they had these offspring, then the offspring are what you would call Nephilim, Raphaim, you can use any of the names to describe them. It's the same lineage. Those beings, because they're not angels or human, they are unsentient beings. So their souls, their spirits, when they die, they're trapped on this plane of existence we are in. There's a veil. There's the spiritual realm, and then there's our realm. Okay, and they're very closely linked together. It's more like a paradox. It's more like a twin dimension.
Mm-hmm.
Very hard to describe, but there's that world and there's this world. Now,
so that's what they say in heaven, is that in the spirit realm as on earth.
Now those are just the Nephilim. Now the Nephilim who died, they're what's called evil spirits or demons. Okay, their spirits are trapped. Okay, and those are the ones that possess people and things like that. Then you have fallen angels. The 200 that came down to take women, they're bound. So their powers are limited. However, you do have instances where people sight orbs coming out of volcanoes. You know, that's them. Okay, there's different colors actually that represent different angelic beings. I can't remember I don't want to say what colors they are, but
yeah,
the color, there's good angelic beings that emit a certain color, and they will make sure you don't get anywhere near them. The other ones, they're a threat to you. So I think those are I think it's actually the red ones that will ward you off, and the other colored ones, like the green ones or the blue ones, those are the bad guys. So you don't want to.
So the ones in Brave,
yeah,
the ones in Frozen 2.
Yeah. So you have that. Okay.
mm-hmm.
So they're more seducing spirits, almost.
You also have a third of the angelic hierarchy that fell with Satan. Okay, those ones aren't bound. Those ones are free to roam. So they operate among us, but they look like us. They're not. What they've been doing is, for as long as we have existed, they've been trying to create. They've always been creating bodies for themselves. Okay, and even afterwards, they would create biological bodies to possess. This is why people see aliens and Bigfoot and things like that. That's them possessing a creature that they've created. What they're trying to do with humans today is they're trying to reenact what happened in the beginning. So they're trying to, once again, have offspring. They're trying to breed a new race of being. Now, of course, they know that they have a limited time. Okay, so what they're in a rush to do is try to implement this plan right now. It's going to turn out to be a mess. But what is going to happen is you have there's other things that exist that are just not about fallen angels. There's other things that they don't even know about yet. So when that happens, this is going to be a time like no other. It's going to be like the days of Noah. It's going to be much more bizarre, because they were living in a time that was normal to them. It was normal to have giants.
Mm-hmm.
They were around for 1,000 years, before they were wiped out. So you can imagine living with these beasts and these giants out there. So you live a different lifestyle. You create different tools. See, the thing is with fallen angels, because they pass through the veil, they're still spirit, but they don't have their abilities that they had on that other side. They can't cross back over. So what they do is they use technologies to get things done. And so they use crystals, they use lasers and different biological technologies, nanotechnologies, and things like that.
Is that where transhumanism is coming in?
Right. All right. And they leave behind writings. So this is where you have entities like Thoth, who are just in that hierarchy. Not the good angels, by the way, but he's in that hierarchy. So he goes by different names, and he's been different entities throughout time. They always change up just to blend in with the time period. So today he's something else somewhere. Before he was Thoth, and that, I've.
Do you think he's white Jesus?
White Jesus, that's another thing. Because they have put out a certain, that is something that's kind of organized. They put that out there so that over time people develop a certain image in their head, which can be a mistake if you kind of let that thing into your life, putting crosses and everything like that, putting pictures of Jesus in your home and things like that, when you don't know what he looked like. It's only you're given a description, by several individuals, but it's a thing that when you have this idea in your head, if he were to appear in front of you, you wouldn't know it was him. So for that reason, if someone comes around looking like Jesus and starts doing things that Jesus would do, you would probably think that was Jesus. And that's the idea here, because even in prophecy it says there is going to be someone who travels around performing miracles. Okay, you won't get a big following at first until he brings someone back to life, and that will be the delusion, the grand delusion that will overcome many. And you're going to have certain things have to take place first.
Do you think that's happening at the moment? Do you think that movement has started, or he's on the earth at the moment?
There are definitely signs that prophecy, biblical scriptures are actually coming to pass. You can confirm a lot of that through other texts and other prophecies, data, just scientific data. You could look at trends. You can look at the amount of earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. You can look at Antarctica alone, and you can see the atmospheric changes. Some people can feel them already. There's major atmospheric changes underway. It's just going to cause a lot of stronger storms and stranger weather patterns.
This all sort of happened in the Netflix show The Messiah. Did you see that on Netflix?
No.
It's a Netflix original about a guy who looks like he's from the Muslim culture, but he's sort of claiming to be the Messiah. It's quite interesting from an esoteric point of view.
Yeah, there's if you've ever gone through the gospel of Jesus Christ, if you've ever gone through the biblical texts, he says, yeah, that's going to happen. There's going to be people who come claiming to be me. But you're dealing with an angelic being, so he was allowed and was sanctioned to come. But the first time he came, it was in a human form. This time, it's not going to be in a human form. It's going to be in his form. So it's not going to come without, it's basically Satan's going to try one thing, and then Jesus is going to come and say, hold my beer. So that's going to be like, that's basically what's going to happen. So, but unfortunately, a lot of people are going to fall victim to the delusion. And, it's not just about how the Bible lays it out. You have to kind of go and meditate in your own mind. And the Creator, God, will actually send you images. He'll send you visions, you know, if you ask for them. He will send you visions. He will send you answers to questions. If you look at some of the old kings, you know, the old world, when they used to have visions, you know, they would have to find interpreters. They would have to get religious men to pray for the interpretations of some of those, because it was very confusing. You know, a lot of people, and it's an interesting thing about dreams that, you know, a lot of people are having similar dreams now. And that's going to be one of the other things that occurs as we get closer and closer to certain events. So we're going to start, you know, those of us tuned in, I guess you could say, would start having those recurring dreams with things that they can't quite understand, certain dreams about water.
One thing that like really I started on this really conspiracy theory journey by finding out about the subliminal messages in the music videos in Disney. This is kind of what started me down the rabbit hole. And for a long time, it was all a lot about the Mark of the Beast and the Illuminati, all these sort of kinds of things. And then I spiraled off when I was told that only black people can be saved because they're the true Israelites and the Bible was just for them. And it really shattered my faith for about a year. I think it was. I just didn't know whether to pray to, who to pray to, whether to say Jesus, Yeshua, Yoahashi. I was all these different names. I got to the point where I was like, does it even matter? Like, but then it was like in my heart, it's like, well, someone's name does matter. It does matter what you call someone. So if they've changed it, why have they changed it? And can that divert your prayers?
Right. They, like I said, they have in different countries. You get also different narratives of, you know, biblical history. You know, for example, China. You know, they have their own version of the Bible. If you are unlucky enough to get that version, but you know that it's not that it's not available to you, but you know, the narrative about the Hebrews being the chosen people, you know, there are promises made, you know, to Abraham and his lineage for land that went on that carried on up to Egypt with Moses and so on. What happened was they were no longer, and Jesus set the record straight. They were no longer God's chosen people, and that's the problem they had with him. Okay, and that's what led to him basically being, you know, captured and things like that. So he opened the door for everyone, basically. That works via genetics. So in the beginning, if you have Adam, who is our father lineage all the way back to the beginning, his bloodline is tainted. So your DNA changes. Your DNA changes with thoughts. Your DNA changes with your environment, and there's a spiritual part attached to it as well. So everything that that event that occurred in the Garden of Eden, that narrative, what that did was it set a genetic code that would just keep going down from person to person to person. So we're all kind of infected with that lineage. Christ coming down in human form is because that occurred. Now you have a new lineage. So now it corrects what Adam did. So when him coming back and sacrificing himself in human flesh form, that was what was needed to correct what Adam did. But now because it was Michael, that angelic being who did that, that is the link between us, Michael, that being Jesus, you know.
So you think you do believe Michael is Jesus?
Yes, Michael. Yeah, everything that I've looked into points to that. So, you know, if that is the link to God. So that is why you'll see Christians pray. They don't, you know, some people don't even know why, But there is, you know, a bigger scientific reason for a lot of these things that, you know, just get kind of like, you know, they aren't really discussed as much. So, you know, it all seems kind of magical and mystical at first, but when you actually look into it, the reality is, you know, this had to occur, and, you know, it couldn't happen any other way. It's not just the Bible, it's with all ancient texts, because that's just the way they spoke. And you can actually see the signs if you break it down and say, okay, how would we go about reenacting this in real life? Like, what's missing? You know, how would physics work in a time, you know, long ago? You know, a lot of people don't understand, you know, how it would be like to live in a canopy. You know, in an antediluvian world, you know, if you have a giant, they don't have to be as big as something like Devil's Tower. Like, you know, I'm not talking about that big, if that's even a tree stump, but you're going to have much larger foliage, and you're going to have this canopy that covers everything.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, these are missing details. So you're not seeing the sky, you're seeing just foliage, you're seeing greenery, you're seeing rays of light come in, but that's about it. You're living in this dome of like world, you know, because it's just more natural. Everything hasn't been cut down or deforested, not that much anyway. But later on that happens the same way we live today. So a lot of things were cut down.
Who do you think cut the trees down? If they were trees, which I think they are, but who do you think would have cut them down?
Well, they had to be, it's going to be the Nephilim, is going to be fallen angel technology that's used to do anything like that. It's all been taught. It's all been passed down to us so that we could recreate that experience. And we could reverse engineer a lot of things that were, some of them say, the elites call them gifts. And it's like when these fallen angels give you like these like witchcraft and, you know, spacecraft that crash, actually thrown down, so that they could be found, and, you know, things can be replicated, bodies could be replicated. If you have a body now, you can replicate that. You know that it's just a vessel because you are in that loop. Okay, so it's all much more bizarre.
Do you think the kingdom of Satan is a kingdom divided amongst itself? Do you think they war against each other?
I'm not too sure about, you know, they have a hierarchy within themselves, so they still have to do what God says. Like, none of these fallen angels are outside of the God's control. In fact, he uses them frequently to perform other tasks. And these dark entities, you know, the elites, the globalists, they consult these entities and what have you. They actually, you know, they go through the whole thing to get them to appear and things like that. And these entities will just straight up lie to them. But there's a fear that they can't go against. You know, they're too deep into, they've already committed crimes, they've already done things to sell their souls, so they're too afraid to go against any of these beings. So whether they're lying to them or not, it doesn't really matter to them. They have to, you know, continue with their agenda.
I mean, recently, I think it came out a few days ago, at the 215 kids that had been found just by the school, and there were reports that the Queen had gone there, and we've always had this suspicion that it's the elites that are trafficking the children. Do you think the adrenochrome and the drinking of the blood and all of that is actually definitely going on?
Yeah, but okay, I'll put it to you like this. You have, let's say you take a secret society like Skull and Bones, right? There's one that sounds kind of creepy, or the Illuminati, right? The Illuminati is more broad-based or more global. So let's take a smaller one like Skull and Bones, all right? I would say 90% of those people in that society are just elitist. They're just rich people, investors, They're country club folks.
Mhm.
Okay, they might have some of them, few of them might be good people. You may even know a couple of them, and you know, they're fine. Then there's those who kind of believe that they're a little bit better than everyone else. You know, those are true elitists. You have 10% of those people, and out of that 10%, you might have 1% who is evil. And that 1% is that is the 1% who engages in, you know, satanic rituals and things of that nature. And absolutely, yeah, they do. You know, it's been documented in history of, you know, certain deities, you know, required certain sacrifices and for you to do certain things. The idea behind adrenochrome is that you flood the blood with adrenaline. In a state, you have to get the adrenaline pumping, and so you put the person in a state of extreme fear and pain, and that will do it. And that will, in consuming, they believe that through this they can get a demon to possess the person, and they believe that by sacrificing that person at the time of possession, as the adrenal glands are pumping out all this adrenaline, they can collect in that blood that is, you know, basic for a form of adrenochrome, not an artificial synthetic formulation of it. So they believe that they can possess the power of that demon once they drink that. You know, it's short-lived. It's kind of like, you know, the jinn. You know, you make a wish, it comes true, but you have to live with the consequences of that. And so why you see a lot of these people that kind of go back and forth. They go from looking fresh to looking like their teeth are falling out to looking fresh again, and to looking like, and they never die. And it's just, you know, they're constantly getting organ transplants, and it's just, it goes on and on and on. So, you know, this is how they live. This is what they do. And yeah, unfortunately, you know, you have, of course, we know child trafficking does exist, and it's probably one of the biggest underworld crimes that exist. And, you know, for it to be so prevalent around the world, you know, like, where are they getting all these? You know, they have people who breed them for that purpose, and they know, and they have this all organized, and they know, you know, it's very, you know, it's very hard to discuss this, you know, especially on a place like YouTube, but, you know, that's why I'm trying to keep it
Yeah, no, I understand.
as clean as possible.
Yeah.
But, you know, yeah, it does happen.
Do you think there's celebrities that are involved in it, or are they just more puppets?
I can't say anybody in particular, so I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt that there's a percentage of those who have. Are they still around? I'm not sure. I'm not sure of that. Maybe there are. You know, there's a lot of things coming out about a lot of celebrities, and you know, the music industry is just pretty much blatant with it. You know, actors, I think they have they try to stick more to the reputation they've developed from the beginning to try to maintain a posture. You know, there are people who probably have done things in the past, you know what I mean? But it would be very hard to, you know, it's too well organized. It'd be very hard to catch. You can just, you know, make assumptions, and you can, you know, throw allegations, you know what I mean? And it very well may be true, but, you know, that, you know, it exists. So it's not like you have to go around and pick people out who's doing this. We just have to become more aware of its prevalency. We have to, it's somehow suppressed from being, because of its horrible content. It's very suppressed. Nobody wants to talk about it. You know, it's the worst thing that a human being can experience. So we just don't want to talk about kids and things like that, and what happens like that. So, but that's dangerous, because if it's not discussed, then people get away with crimes like this. So And that's probably one of the reasons why it keeps going on and on and on. So I do think if we do discuss it more often, yeah, you know, it's hard to do when people can just take your video out, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But, you know, it shouldn't stop you from discussing a period or, you know, trying to put real factual information out there. So the best approach is just to state facts based on it.
Because I think with the conspiracy world, it's so easy to just get lost in a spiral of questions and more, and it just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. To a certain extent, there has to just be like, I think the only way is to have a spiritual aspect to it. I don't think you can go too far into that. I think they're the people who end up going crazy if they don't have that spiritual balance.
Make sure that you guys check out Fyaahstarr TV. They bring it at fire, baby.
Do you have important information that could potentially save someone's life? Would you like to share your thoughts, beliefs and philosophies with us here on Fyaahstarr TV? Maybe you're an artist, maybe you're a musician, an actor, an influencer on social media, someone who just likes to rant, someone who has esoteric knowledge that you want to share with the world. We want to promote your brand. Do you think that Eden could be located in the Amazon?
I think one of the Edens, yeah. I think that I think Mount Roraima. We think, not I think, you know. That's why I said, again, 432 The Drop Radio, great research, you know, learned from a lot of people too. You know, Mount Roraima seems to have been a tree, Mount Roraima. That's actually in the movie Up, an animated movie Up. Angels Falls, I believe. Paradise Falls, something like that.
Are you tired of lies?
Yes.
Are you tired of dishonesty?
Yes.
Are you tired of the mainstream media brainwashing you and your children?
Yes.
Are you hungry for the truth? Are you hungry for righteousness?
Yes.
Are you hungry for some good vibes? Are you hungry for an honest platform that is in the world but not of the world?
Son, where'd you find
Subscribe to Fyaahstarr TV and press the notification bell so you know when we post. Fyaahstarr TV is the future of media. Partnered with TNG Entertainment, Fyaahstarr TV is an online media platform showcasing educational and entertaining content. We are looking for subscribers who want to be at peace with their conscience and soul. We are looking for subscribers who want to learn and have fun. Make sure you subscribe to Fyaahstarr TV, the realest platform in the planet. Because if you don't, I'll find you.
There was a great earthquake, and the sun turned black, like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red, and the stars in the sky fell to the earth, as figs drop from a fig tree when shaken by a strong wind. The heavens receded like a scroll being rolled up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. Oh, the world's on fire.
Welcome to Fire Hot Topics. This week we have a special. The Messiah is here, the end is near. Potentially, we will be reviewing a video from a man in Australia who claims to be Jesus, Yeshua.
The leader is this man.
My name's Alan John Miller, but I'm actually Jesus.
Follow me at Misk Moore for a daily dose of uplifting content.
Drink, take your time. I don't want you to choke, Vanessa. Take your time. All right.
My leg.
Okay.
My leg.
All right, calm down.
It's bleeding.
All right, just calm down. Josh! You hear that? Listen, Josh, stay over there. Keep your eyes open and stay vigilant. You don't want no zombies hopping off the bushes on you, do you?
Get your special edition Jae Woodward TV mug so you can stay awake, stay aware, and stay safe. And remember that every morning when you have your tea or coffee.
Make sure that you guys check out Fyaahstarr TV. They bring it at fire, baby.
So what would your 5 top ways to be spiritually prepared in amongst all of this conspiracy, whether it's true or not?
You need most of us grew up with a moral compass, and not necessarily a religious moral compass. If you spiritually, you have to take care of your thoughts. Your thoughts are very important to how your body is reacts, to your senses are in tune with the earth and everything, the universe and everything around us. Your thoughts are things. So your thoughts will manifest physical reality. So the first thing you want to do to prepare spiritually is you have to get your thoughts in the right place. You have to get those organized. You have to clean up clutter and cleanse. Clutter meaning you have to take care of that bill that you decided not to pay and you keep putting it off. You have to get rid of all those things that clutter your mind. So you have to clear your thoughts. Meditation is good. That's going to give you a very good foundation to start healing your body. So your health is the next thing. Your health, your body, your physical health is going to affect your spiritual health. Because if you don't feel good, if you're in constant pain, that's not going to have a good effect on your spiritual foundations and health. Okay.
And just to touch on that, because what we've seen, even from your videos and thousands of them around, the food is being tampered with, the water's being tampered with. It's like, what do you eat and drink then?
Right. That actually, I suggest people start to investigate what they put in their bodies. So, I mean, we've had our whole lives to do this. So we've been eating our whole lives. So there's no reason, there's really no excuse aside from blaming the education system. There's really no excuse that we should not know what is in an apple. You should know what's in an apple. You should know what's in broccoli. You should know what's in chlorella and spirulina. You should know how vitamin D affects the body. You should know what zinc does. You should know what colloidal silver and trace minerals do already, because these are things that your body is made of, everything that is in the ground, and everything that is in the ground is available to you through food. And just, that there's so many different elements there that people have not taken the time to explore as much as they should. This is part of life. These are one of the there's food, clothing, and shelter. These are the three main things that you should educate yourself on right from the beginning going forward for the rest of your life. So even if you don't have that much knowledge on these things now, start now. That way what's going to be beneficial to you in the time of preparedness.
And do you think supplements work? Supplements, like supplementing with vitamin D and zinc, do you think it's necessary, or do you think it is actually still available in the food? Like, maybe it's a conspiracy that they're telling us it's not in the food when it is, just so that we avoid that and still go for a McDonald's.
Yeah, supplements are good. Whole food supplements, which is basically concentrated food. The food sources we have right now, depending on where it comes from, it could be highly contaminated. If it's imported from a lot of Asian countries, there's high contaminations of heavy metals, and like, for example, like rice imported out of China. In Europe, you have more purity laws where you are around. In Europe and around Germany, you have more purity laws for the soil, so you get better quality vegetation in most cases, but you still have a lot of irradiation. So after it comes out of the ground, it is, just because it's organic doesn't mean it's not irradiated. Over here, the topsoil, during the Dust Bowl, most of the topsoil was blown off. So those nutrients that were in the topsoil aren't there anymore. So what you're getting after you replant and replant and replant and replant for years and years and years, you're going to get lower quality food. You're going to get, less nutrient density, and you're not going to get what you would get out of eating. You would have to eat, like, if you were to take the juice of carrots, and you concentrate it in a juicer, that's one thing. But the problem with that is you're getting a high dose of sugar at the same time. So you're going to up your glycemic, you're going to go way up there in your glycemic index. You're going to, freak your body out with all that sugar at once. So, a little thing of juice, 4 ounces maybe, would be enough. But supplements aid in things you can't get on a daily basis that you might need if you're exposed to a certain diet. So, you know, yeah, a good diet on its own will work, especially if you're eating, you know. So if you're eating regularly, yeah, definitely what you're already getting could be enough. The other supplements can't hurt. They're going to definitely boost your immunity. They're going to help you cleanse better. Isolated supplements, like if you take, you know, vitamin D3, it's fine. I would take it with food or anything like that. But there are supplements like zinc. See, these elements are in food already, but they're accompanied by other phytonutrients that you won't get if you isolate the nutrient. You want to have like whole food supplements and nutrients that are accompanied with other nutrients so that your body,
they help you absorb.
right, will help you absorb them much better.
Okay, so your top 5 was first meditation. With the meditation, is that meditating on scripture? Because I've also heard that when you just meditate and empty your mind, you're also susceptible to thoughts that are interference, I guess.
Right. You want to get your body as healthy as possible first, because a lot of people they're working backwards. They're just, you know, you have to feel good. That is your goal each and every day, is to feel good right now. And when you do that, what happens is things, wherever you go, things work out for you. It's kind of like you're walking around. It's kind of like Neo in the Matrix, where you kind of can manipulate matter around you. And once you become confident at doing that, and you know you can do it, see, belief is going to take a lot of time to develop that belief that you can do it. And then you walk around like a superhuman, because you know you have this ability. But it's a natural human ability that everyone has. They just they're not aware of it. So it's very important to meditate and to get your thoughts aligned correctly. You have to cleanse yourself of things that will put, you know, like if you're into horror movies, you might have to take a break from watching horror movies. And you will notice, or if you listen to hip hop or rap music that has cursing in it, if you take a break from that, you'll notice that you stop cursing. You see, so there's elements in our environment that we kind of have to put to the side, or we kind of have to eliminate for a short period of time. You know, they're always going to be there. You're not going to miss out on anything, you know what I mean? So it's important to do that, and that's going to affect your body. What you put in your body is going to affect your body and your mind as well. And all of that is going to strengthen your spirit. It's going to actually strengthen your connection that you have with God, or whoever you believe is that spiritual connection, you know, creator. You want to develop. This is the hard thing. You can't just believe. See, it's one thing to just believe that there is a God. Okay, you need to make a conclusion, decision in your life. Like, okay, is that the God of the Hebrews? Is that the God of the Egyptians? Or is that the God? You know, I tell people this. From what I've discovered, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. So therefore, yeah, I do believe that, you know, Jehovah Yahweh is the God of the Hebrew. He is the creator, the God. Okay, there are so many names for the creator. You know, it doesn't have a name because no one can name him. He just is who he is. So that being, of course, you know, and a lot of people don't know this, that, you know, you have organizations like CERN who have been trying to prove that God exists. People don't know this. That's the whole point to the God particle. This is proof. They know this. They believe the Bible more than other people do. This is why they do what they do. This is all why this is everything that's happening is because they believe of what's going to happen. So, and they can see it. They have evidence to prove that it is going to happen. They've seen things out there in space. They've seen things that are probably shouldn't even be discussed because they're so much outside of our realm of understanding. You know what I mean? Space, monsters that are organisms, I should say, that live in space that are the size of galaxies.
you think it's water? Do you think it's water in space?
Right. These are things that they have discovered, and they have people working on that. They don't try to give us that understanding, so they just give us what we can absorb. Okay, basic science, things like that. And that's all they focus on. That's all they, all that other crazy stuff. You know what I mean? Whoa, that's pretty incredible, but we can't put that out there. Like, what's this going to do if we put that out there like that? You got to stick. That's going to be there. We're going to study it, but make sure we're studying this other stuff at the same time, so that they have something. So we have something to release to the public. You know what I mean? But we are gonna study that.
When they talk about when they talk about in the firmament, the windows of heaven and doors, do you think they're referring to portals or actual gateways?
Yeah, they're actually. Yeah, I guess you could call it a portal or a door. It is a physical doorway you can pass through. Things like that, people have gone crazy before they even had the opportunity to experience things like that. The energies around the globe they're anomalies. A lot of them have been tapered off. They've been fenced off, so you can't go into those areas anyway. There are places that are discussed through dozens of texts that talk about doorways that they believe were real physical entrances into different worlds, So, yeah, the government, they own a good portion of, over here in the States, they own a good portion of national parks and things like that. Regions you can't get into, and they have their reasons for that. And there's mainly a lot of people who try to venture into these areas. They don't come back. There have been school buses gone missing. So there's been people who have gone, tourist groups who have gone missing, going into certain places they weren't.
And airplanes just going out of, just being taken out of the sky as well. A few airlines have lost their planes mid-route as well. Right.
There's going to be certain phenomena I think we're going to have to entertain that is going to be kind of brand new to us. So there's not going to be an explanation that you saw on any movie or read in any book. It's going to be something completely unique. It's almost like if you were, it's kind of like events of time distortion or certain magnetic anomalies that people are running into. So, it would be like you seeing a person in one place and then you turning around and seeing them somewhere else.
Because I think they saw a man with a jetpack like 6,000 feet up or something, didn't they, recently?
Oh, I haven't heard of that. But it's like seeing someone driving a car driving by you, and as they drive by you, the car disappears, but they drive by you. It's almost like a deja vu experience, and you're gonna see people out of their time display. It's gonna be like time displacement. You're gonna see people kind of stuck for a few seconds, and maybe it's gonna be some weird stuff, but it's gonna be time related. So it's gonna be like time pockets around the globe where time moves differently in certain areas. So the moments of that, all of this is due to radiation. Radiation does affect time-space. So you have loads of it coming from the sun, cosmic radiation coming in, and you have the magnetosphere damaged by that, or if that changes.
Is that one that we would describe as the ozone layer?
No, the magnetosphere is the invisible. The ozone layer is a different layer. I think that's in the thermal sphere. Okay, that's one of the top layers. And the magnetosphere surrounds all of that, and that's created by solar winds that come off the, after the sun energy is coming off. It helps to redirect cosmic particles, so everything goes around. It goes up into the North Pole, and it exits the South Pole. So you end up with this magnetic field.
Okay.
So that blocks a lot of high-speed particles that come in. They just rip through everything. So when you have like that, if you have holes in that, or if you have a weakening of that magnetosphere, then you have everything that was dependent upon it, like our brains. The functioning of our brains is dependent upon the strength of that magnetosphere and how the Earth rotates and things like that. Everything is joined into this dance. So if anything changes, that's going to affect our biology. It's going to affect our mental health and things like that.
Do you think Hollow Earth is a physical place or a spiritual place?
Hollow Earth? So they have satellite technology that can, if you have a satellite on one side and you have a satellite on the other side, you can do what's kind of like an ultrasound of the Earth. They have sound. That's primitive to what they have now. So they can see into the Earth, and they can see that there's pockets in there. They can see there's oceans in there. There's an ocean it's a little bit bigger than the Atlantic that's under the crust that they've discovered. So yeah, there's definitely a type of hollow Earth. Is there a civilization there? I couldn't tell you, but I know that there are entities there who are being held back.
And would you describe that as the same place as the abyss?
You could call it that. They haven't, from what I understand, these entities haven't had contact with humans before, but for the time we've been on this planet, they've been working their way up. So at some point, maybe we will encounter something like that. We may have to entertain some scary things, but again, that's prophecy. But they have evidence, of a lot of these things. I can't tell you to what degree, when we're talking about the abyss and things coming out of that, I can't tell you like to what degree that, how that's going to actually play out, or what that's going to look like. The Bible says what it's going to look like. There's other texts that mention something similar to it, but it's hard to imagine because the creatures described sound so. It sounds like like there's. It's like a mix and match of different creatures and things like that. It's hard to believe that, what I mean? But there's of course evidence that they dig up all the time that confirms, okay, yeah, Hobbit was a real creature. So, you have things like that you would think, no, that's made up, but no, it's based on ancient lore, which is basically ancient history in some cases. And we're finding out that a lot of things they were talking about in texts like the Bible and the I Ching and it's not so much the Sumerian text, but other texts like it from that time period in that area. So, they talk about monsters and beasts and things like that. So, we probably will have to, because see, the Earth is changing to a degree where it's pushing things that are in the ground up. So a lot of the things that were at the bottom of the ocean are also coming up. They're going to have to, they have to come up, and generationally, their DNA changes. So they have to adapt to the new environment of being, closer to the surface. So you get a lot of these creatures that are going to come up, and you got things underground. You're going to see bugs that haven't been seen. You probably see it now in the news all the time. There's this new bug or this new weird creature that's coming out, you know, from underneath the ground. You're going to have all types of animal issues, but you're going to see animal issues before you see any weird creatures. You're going to see a lot more.
Yeah, that's in Revelation. It says the beast is going to have, you know, this, that, and it's going to have different heads, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Great time to be alive. Well, do you think the Earth is flat, round, or flat and round?
It's what you call, it's a okay, so the way I describe it is, think about like a water balloon. Okay, you don't fill it up all the way till it's completely round. You kind of get enough of it in there. And if you ever threw a water balloon and never seen like a water balloon in time lapse, you'll see that as it spins, as it's going through the air, it kind of changes shape. It's this globular shape. A globe is a natural formation of anything that goes in a vacuum. So anything that you put, like you take a liquid or anything, it's naturally, as magnetic forces attract it, it's going to naturally take that sphere-like shape naturally. If it's spinning and moving through this, it's not really a vacuum. There is matter there, but when it's spinning through space, it's going to change shape as it goes. It's going to be more flat on the top, and it's going to be very flat on the bottom. So it's going to be wider at the bottom, and it's going to get thinner as it goes to the top. And then as you get to the top, it's going to flatten out. Now, as you get to the center, it should dip in. So it's going to kind of look, from the top, it's going to look like a donut. So it's a very weird shape, but it's not completely round and it's not completely flat. Okay, neither one of those works. But what does work is what I just described. It's more of like a natural changing shape, because the Earth is constantly changing. Slowly to us, but you know, it is changing. Constantly earthquakes, there's constantly flooding. There's land mass changes, landslides, sinkholes, everything that is changing the crust, the shape of the crust, and where the continents lie, tectonic plates and things like that. So even when you take the water away, you know, the shape doesn't change that much, but of course it's not completely round. You know, the water forms that shape because that's what like I said, that's the natural formation that things take when they are in that type of atmosphere, that compression in the environment.
So in the beginning, God sort of spoke all of this into existence and then created Adam and Eve. Do you believe Adam and Eve were the only created beings, or do you think that they were living and there were other sort of, you know, because the Anunnaki and the books of Enki sort of implied that there were all of these mishaps before. Were they just trying to replicate what God was already doing, and that's why they were already people out there?
Right. Yeah, that's what they were doing. They were everything that God does, those fallen angels tried to mimic. That's why they do all the same things. That's why they're going to try to release a Messiah. They just copycat everything God does, and that's how they become successful at what they do. So they will give the same narrative that is, you know, we believe, okay, God created the first man. There has to be one of our lineage going back, okay? If there were multiple, and you do have, you still have that idea of there being a origin man and woman, okay? What's described in the Sumerian text, those are basically failed attempts where the seed would not cleave. In order to, if you were to try to, there's certain things in genetics where you have to take certain parts of certain beings so that the genes that you want to combine will actually combine. And in the beginning, when they first attempted to do that with women, they were successful at doing that. But after that, you know, they have to use other methods. So they use genetic methods, and that's where you get stories about, you know, the Anunnaki basically falling. It's the same story. They come down and they try to have offspring. basically. Whether they said they genetically created them or not, that is their children.
And that's interesting because if the fallen wanted to have children, that would imply that God did have his only begotten son, which is why they were trying to copy him.
Right. They are there's different descriptions. Actually, the Vatican has a very detailed hierarchy of that very detailed records of this. Some of it's not that hard to get to them. You can get some of the archive information online, because there are people who go visit the archives, and you can get access to them. It's not like, there's this big conspiracy about like this. There's nothing there. Like I said, they got the real stuff in their house. So anything in the archives that you think is in the archives, it ain't there. It's just a bunch of records from religious leaders. They're basically documented records from past religious leaders of the Vatican. And so you get a lot of ancient documents that they have to keep at certain temperatures and certain pressures, and you can only go in there. You have to make an appointment months in advance. You can only go in there at that certain time, specific time of day. There's no negotiations with what you can. So you have a limited time to go in there and study. So you go in and you document everything that you can, and then you put your book on it. And there's books based on those archives that you can get information on angelic beings and their hierarchy. And it's pretty good, accurate stuff. You can just use it as references to compare with other texts that you've already, started researching. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of information there that I'm still learning.
So we know that there was a fallen, the 200. So there were the ones that fell, and then there were the 200 from the ones that fell that specifically wanted to have children with women, and that's documented in the Bible. Now, when it goes back to the Garden of Eden, and they're saying that Eve ate the fruit, ate the apple, is that implying that she actually had sex with a reptilian? And do you think that's where the line of Cain came from?
So, from what I understand, there was they don't specify what fruit she ate, or they just it's basically she took fruit for herself and for Adam. The whole event with her and the serpent, that there's a few details missing from that as well. Yeah, there's a lot of there are theories that suggest that she did sleep with the devil, which is why God put that on the seed of her and the devil. So, or the what I would call Satan's, not just one but several. So, but the one who tricked Eve is not Satan, the devil we think of when people say Satan. This is I believe it's Godriel. Godriel is the one who he also taught the other angels how to change shape. He taught them how to sleep with women. So there's different things they had to be taught first, and yeah, something definitely happened, but it was the point at which it was all a test. It was when God created the angels, there was a test in the beginning, okay? And they were just allowed to incarnate. And that was a test for them. When man was created, he got his own test. And that was basically, it had to occur in order for us to have the ability to learn to be the human beings we were intended to be, because we have these other angelic beings. And for that reason, we had to go through, because remember, if you create something, right? You create, let's say you create a angelic being, all right? Your next being, your next creation is not going to be worse than that first creation. It's going to be better. You're going to make improvements, okay? Remember, they wanted to come here. You know what I mean? They wanted to be gods to us. They wanted to rule over us. They wanted to be like God. They came here. They wanted to mix with us. You know what I mean? They have their roles to play, but they kind of have like this choice as well. So, you know, they have positions to play. Everything is maintained by them. So it's kind of like you have like such as the seasons are maintained. Meteorites passing by us, that's maintained. Call it divine intervention, but there's angels who have specific jobs, and that's what they do. They maintain the moon is maintained. This is why the moon is always facing, it's purposed, it's designed that way. This is why you can look at the solar system. This is a design. You can see the if you were to look at, you know, you can see that picture they always give you. Everything is in the right place and it's positioned just perfectly. Anything to throw it off, and everything changes. And all you need actually to throw anything that all this off is a second constellation, a second system to come in. And it comes in every so often, and then each time it comes in, the severity of what happens is different. The first time it came in, we have the flood. Next time it came in, we have what happened in Egypt. Next time it came in, we have what happened. It was less severe when the time of Christ. So it's coming around again. And the severity, I guess, is going to be the most extreme, because it's probably going to be the closest it's ever gotten to us. So we have that, okay? And that is always discussed, but it's not, when we read these texts, we look at it as background. We didn't notice what they just said. When they say, oh, there was a star shining in the sky at the time of, you know, we just looked at as the background, and we don't recognize, okay, what star are you talking about? You know what I mean? Because if you look at, yeah, I mean, things were in different positions back then. You know, they could see Saturn as good as we could see the moon. So when you have things like that, and they change, you know, trajectories, and things were maintained and moved into different positions. So here we are today, you know, we're going to be going through a different cycle. You know, it's just a cycle, it's movement.
Do you believe that it's actually, this is what God meant when he was creating heaven on earth and a new earth? Like, this is what's happening, all the terraforming and the sinkholes and everything. It's actually preparing to be the new earth.
Yeah, part of that is, you know, just natural phenomena. Some of it is caused. And, you know, what we're going through right now, what we're going to go through first is we're going to have to deal with other people right now. We're not going to have to deal with, we will have to deal with natural elements at the same time. But, you know, as far as like a tribulation, Armageddon, apocalypse type scenario, that scenario is coming. Certain things have to happen first, and we're going to have to deal with those things first. So it's going to be kind of like over time, as these things come to pass, we're going to have to become more prepared and just, you know, get into more survival type of mentality.
You know, in the days of Noah, I would surmise that they were probably more technologically advanced than we are now, because we seem to be moving into a very technologically advanced era. So where people think it was just, you know, old school and stuff, do you think Noah actually was creating, do you think it was like an actual ark, or do you think it was like something that could have just teleported them out while the destruction was going on? Yeah,
I believe they had all the same technologies we have today, if not more advanced. What we have today is pretty looking things, but it's not really as advanced as they lead us to believe. They have technologies that are 100 years, 500 years ahead of us. And, you know, of course they keep that in the shadow government section. like I said before, those fallen entities, they weren't able to do what they had high knowledge, so they knew a lot about how to put things together, and they could teach. Man is very teachable, and you can teach him to do almost anything. You know, any one person can do can be taught to another, and so that's how they operated, and they were teaching men these things. They were teaching them how to build certain structures and ships and weapons. They the thing is, when you're in the ancient world, their technologies are more natural. They're going to use more crystal technology, things that are you know, not as they're more purposed. So what men recreate is going to be, a lot of things are for conventional warfare, but it's ancient stuff compared to what they really have. You know, nuclear weapons is ancient technology compared to what they have now. Lasers are ancient technology.
There was something they were saying about lasers for the California fires. Did you hear that? That they were actually, Donald Trump just getting his own back on the celebrities by actually lasering them rather than it being wildfires.
Well, you have, like I was saying, you know, you have the time period where they were doing a lot of things. Now things are being caused by nature itself. So it's actually, you have a lot of magma flow in California, and it's heating things up from the ground in. So because you have, from underneath the ground, you have all this magma flow. It's heating up the ground, and it's drying up the ground, and that's anything. It's spontaneous. You know, the sun is going to spark anything. You know, you don't have the amount of debris that is in those forests from previous fires and things like that hasn't all been cleaned up. So yeah, fires are going to spread much more rapidly. But that's why you have fires in California. You have fires in Europe. You have fires in Amazon. You have fires in Australia. They're not all lasers. So it's more of a it's a cosmic thing. All that's being caused because radiation is coming in. It's too much. There's not enough volcanic eruptions happening to release the pressure.
Is radiation coming from their satellites and stuff, or is it just coming from outer space?
Some of it. There's some radiation coming off of satellites and things like that. Yeah, there's a lot of man-made EMF radiation, ionizing radiation as well. That definitely can be blamed on man. The greater stuff, the stuff that can just, you know, take us out in a day, that stuff is you know, natural. That, you know, if they're doing it, that's why a lot of programs have been shut down. They're moving into a different phase. They're not interested. They're more interested in saving themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to depopulate 7.8 billion people. As you can see, they're not doing a very good. If this is a depopulation agenda, they're not doing a very good job. They're not. The only way you can do that is you got to stop people from having kids, period. That's the only way that you can do that, which looks like they're trying to do that now. Good luck, because life finds a way, and everyone's different. And it's they've let this go too far. There's way too many people for them. It's hard. You could drop a bunch of nukes, kill hundreds of millions of people. You still got 6.8. You still got 6 billion people on the planet. You kill 100 million people. You kill 200 million. You still have billions of people. So that, you know what I mean? It's kind of like an agenda to, you know, okay, yeah, you guys can believe that if you want to. We're busy working on underground bases. We've got things we got to do to prepare to keep ourselves alive. You guys can go believe all that stuff if you want. That's what they're doing. They just plan to leave everybody. Okay, they're gonna ditch us to the surface. You know, probably a few will attempt to leave the planet. Who knows? But you know, that is not. The reality of that is you can't just go underground. You have to have training to go underground. You have to acclimate. That could take a long period of time. You can't just go into space. You have to acclimate to that. There is no escape from any of this. So, like they said, in biblical scriptures, people will go hide in the mountains, to hide themselves from the things that come. So they're going to attempt to do that, but there is no escape. You're basically going to that's basically a grave for you if you decide to go underground,
Do you
Most
think we're in the
great tribulations, or do you think that's not yet come?
Yeah, I think we're starting to see, everything that's happening is, we're gonna be going through it. So, I wouldn't count on a specific day. I think it's more of a gradual thing that occurs. It's going to be one event after the next, and you're going to start to see patterns, even though things won't exactly play out as the narrative states. You will see bits and pieces of that in there. So everything that happens, you will see bits and pieces of what may seem like the mark of the beast. But there are other things that have to occur for that to happen. Okay.
Like religion being banned.
Right.
Do you think that that's coming in with the Chrislam, like the Catholic and Islam creating this coexist agenda?
Yeah, there is a Luciferian agenda. They are convinced that they are going to get eternal life from a being that doesn't have it. And then there's, the other belief. There's the other belief side, who are God-fearing people who believe that, there's numerous beliefs, resurrection, everlasting life, going to heaven or going to hell. Or
do you think everyone's going to go to heaven?
That is, it's well, Christ said no person who has ever whoever is going to heaven has come from heaven. Okay. It also states that there are certain, you've heard of the 144,000. These are the people who are sealed in the book of life. Those people who are designated to rule as kings in the new kingdom for 1,000 years. And then you have the re-release of Satan for his last final attempt, and then he's gone. So you have that all playing out. You do have some things that are coming to pass, strangely enough. Like it's certain things you can't make up, and it's just there. So it's hard to deny, even the science. And that's why I said they really believe in these ancient scriptures and these ancient texts, not just the Bible, but they believe in a lot of different ones that are confirming what they've been seeing. So, the data is there for them to look at, and for us to look at. We can see the trends. We can see everything going up. It's getting hotter every year. This year, we're going to have to endure some extreme weather, especially where you guys are. In the Middle East, India, you're going to see some very extreme temperatures, probably may go up in 125 degrees in some cases. Out here, there's going to be, most of the time what's happening, we're seeing a split between the nation. So one side is cold while the other side is burning up. So you can see that flip-flop. You're going to see storms that are the size of nations sweeping through with straight line winds that are almost pure electrical storms. So you're going to have a lot of lightning, a lot of conductivity, and electromagnetic anomalies form out of that as well. So you're going to notice changes in transportation. Some systems may get shut down. Some flights might remain grounded. So more and more and more, we're going to have to deal with these changes. We're dealing with this pandemic issue.
Do you think it's worth prepping? Like, you said about, in the end, people who run to the mountains, run to the deserts, there's no hiding from this. Do you think that there is still I know you said to meditate, get your body in shape. Do you think there's an element where you should be storing food and water? how should you prepare for these things if you know we believe that they are coming?
Yeah, you should. It's a good habit to have. Start to, and you can start with simple things. You know, you can start with having a water source to store, and you'll learn over time how to store water and how not to store water. You know, like a lot of people think that you can take like a big 5-gallon plastic jug and just put it in the basement, but if you put that on the floor, on a concrete floor, it's going to seep up all the chemicals that are in the concrete through the plastic into the water. A lot of people don't know that. So it's very important. Yeah, you do practice. It's practice.
So my big plastic one just collecting rainwater out there.
Yeah, that's what it's about. Prepping is about practicing. It's not about actually stockpiling anything that you may not have access to when you may have to leave it all. So all that prepping was for nothing. The purpose of it is to get you into an education system that you're learning about different foods that can store and
Even
what's
edible weeds. We've been looking at edible, edible foraging.
Right.
In the forest.
That's part of it. You want to know what wild foods you can eat. You want to know what wild animals are out there that are easy to catch. Fish. You need to know how to go out fishing.
Do you eat meat?
I eat meat.
Yeah.
And that's more essential in a survival situation. It's going to be very hard to get calories out of vegetables in a survival situation. So that's one thing people are going to have to consider moving forward. If you have a diet that requires you to intake a lot of calories because you're very active, you're going to be highly active in a life and death situation where you're going to need tons of calories. It's not going to, it might make you, if you're like, so for instance, if you're on a vegan diet or if you're on a vegetarian diet and you find yourself in a situation where I mean, ethics is one thing, but if you did choose to eat like a fish or any type of meat, you probably want to get the highest dense food, so you're not eating that much of it, so it doesn't throw your body off, and that particularly you don't want to go through stomach issues in a crisis situation. I will tell you this: there are good protein supplements like hemp. Hemp is probably the best thing you can find. You can get buckets of it and store that, and it'll last for years. You get it, and you can store it, and you can take that in a situation where you had to leave. You take a few buckets of hemp protein powder. That has all the amino acids you need. Everything the body needs is in that protein. It's the closest thing to human protein as a plant-based protein. Just a handful of hemp seeds could give you energy that can last you half the day. So there are plants.
If you got some buds.
But if you don't have access to that, there's not hemp growing everywhere.
No, unfortunately.
And you're going to be eating a lot of berries. You're going to be eating a lot of. It's going to be very hard.
What about insects? There's this big. I think it was the new foods about this insect culture that's coming in.
Yeah, there's a new. Well, it's not really new. It's been done for a long time.
Yeah.
They're trying to make it more mainstream because they're trying to. Everything is done to get you used to things. For example, masks don't do anything. Science has been like, I don't know how many virus movies are out there. You wearing this radiation suit, you get a hole in the suit, you're done. That's it, right? But for some reason, this is going to stop a virus. Me doing this is going to stop a virus. It's not going to stop anything. It doesn't stop your spit at all. Doctors wear that so they don't spit inside you. That's why it's worn. That's it. That's the only thing it does. Other than that, no, it doesn't do anything. In fact, that's where when you go into a hospital and people get cut open and they come out with pneumonia, where do you think that comes from? So, that's like a hospital thing. You know what I mean? It's not people catching pneumonia out and about. They catch it when they get into the hospital. That's what all that is. You don't, in any normal time, you don't see people wearing that. So there's a lot of things, but they're doing this to get you used to something.
Well, yeah, I even saw that something they were saying, like in satanic rituals, they wear masks and they have the social distancing and they wash their hands and stuff like that. So they were sort of insinuating that it's like a massive cleansing, like satanic ritual almost.
They're very weird. They're very weird. It's kind of like they want to give us the tools to save ourselves, but they don't want us to be saved. Isn't that strange? So it's very bizarre how they do things. So they're prepping us for something that's coming in the future where we're going to have to wear a mask.
Yeah.
So they're gauging their audience. They're gauging to see who's going to do what, how many people are going to die because they didn't follow instruction, and how many people are going to actually be effective with the instruction. So there are different type of masks, of course, and for different things. Looking from this example, we failed because we didn't wear the appropriate type of mask to stop a virus. That was a failure. You know, and the reason it kept going on and on and on is because they told us to, and that's part of their control mechanism. Sorry for that train if you hear that train going by, but that's yeah. So that's how they do things, and they want to gauge the response, so they know the next time. Yeah. So when it's time for them to say, for example, let's say you have a volcanic eruption that is massive, so massive that you have a third of the planet that is an ash cloud. So you have a big issue there. You can't breathe that in. There's tiny glass particles in there. There's heated particles in there that will give you permanent lung damage and a lot of other issues as well. So they kind of want to save us from that if they can, but they don't. It's very strange how they operate. But that comes from compartmentalization through the ranks. There's some people who want to save people. There's some people who want the world to burn and to see people die. That's part of some of the ritual, is to get a connection with people you're going to kill. So that, it's very, very bizarre. So yeah, all those things are in play, and they definitely want to prep us for something that's coming in the future. So this is just this is just a test. This is an experiment.
Like this fake alien invasion that, I mean, we was watching the Spider-Man yesterday, like I said, and they have all these elementals, and there was, even the Bible says there's going to be this illusion that everyone's going to see. So yeah, it's interesting and it's scary, but it's also quite exciting to have studied this stuff for so long and then to actually be alive when these things are starting to manifest.
I say this all the time, we're going to have some hard times ahead of us, but it is exciting because of what comes after. So, I guess accepting, that you could die, before any of this happens, accepting that and getting used to the idea that, this something's coming that is much better than the world we live in right now. We're going to be able to rebuild in a way that we were intended to live, truly live as human beings instead of in a system that has been corrupt since the very beginning. So,
and with the rapture, is that the rapture of just the 144,000, or is it the rapture of God's people who have accepted Jesus, do you think?
That's like I said, there's what I believe there's a set number of people designated to rule there, but we are meant to be here. So, I know there's people who believe in ascension and things like that. That's actually a Luciferian concept that comes from that side. People don't realize that all that stuff, ascending and spiritual ascension and things like that, that all comes from that side of the fence. Yeah. So it works on here on the planet, but there is no, the end game is a lie. They're lying to people. That these entities had set that up a long time ago. The real rapture is more like that designated group of people. We are intended to be here, but our bodies should cycle. So they should continue to cycle. We should not age or die. So that's the idea. That's the concept that we were intended to have.
And so is that when God's going to resurrect the righteous and the unrighteous?
Right. If you're looking at biblical scripture, it's going to be, there's going to be an initial resurrection, I believe. And then from that point, there's going to be anyone who dies after that, it's done.
And why do you think that the righteous as well as the unrighteous will be resurrected?
What do I think about?
Why do you think the righteous and unrighteous will be resurrected?
Oh, because there's a final judgment to be had. You know what I mean? There's it's the angelic beings, they try to play games with us. They're trying to take us with them because they know what's going to happen. A lot of I don't know if there's a narrative in the Bible where Jesus goes to this boy who's possessed by all these demons and cast the demons out. When he came to them, the demons were like, wait a second, and they knew. See, they knew ahead of time. They're like, wait a second, dude, it's not our time yet. So what are you doing here? So they thought he was there to lock them up in eternity. He was there to, initiate that punishment that they, going to have to pay those consequences. So they thought he was there for that. So that's why, they do know what's coming. They do know ahead of time. And they are kind of like in this, but those beings are, they're different from us. They like demonic beings are different in that because of what they are or what they were originally, hybrid beings. They have a different, it's kind of like an inbred person. This person usually has a lot of pain. They usually grow up with a lot of pain and a lot of mental issues. It makes them violent. And these giants were violent beings. They just wanted to go around to destroy. So this is what you end up with. They made, I don't know if you remember them cloning a sheep. Remember that? Dolly, yeah. Dolly was not a nice sheep. It was not a nice sheep. They don't say that. They don't tell you things like that because that's what that is. It's an unsentient soul. So
yeah, I think that
Have you seen I, Frankenstein?
Yeah, and I know.
It didn't get a very good review. I loved it. I thought it was brilliant, but just because I've got that kind of. But yeah, they had all of those bodies that were just being waited to be inhabited, so they could just wreak havoc. And that is, yeah, they just seem to want to wreak havoc. Do you think that was, like the Greek gods? Do you think that they were fallen, or do you think that they were Nephilim?
Fallen. The deities were the fallen. The entities, then they'd have control of their children, the evil spirits or the demons.
Why were there female? Were there female fallen angels? Were there female angels? Or is it just a male taking on
Yeah, it would be more in the essence of it would be an essence of male, but they're both. So it's kind of like human beings. We're both. Everyone starts out essentially as female, then as it develops, then the male part comes in.
Okay.
That's why men have some same body parts that, don't serve a purpose, but we have that because we essentially start that way. So that's the same for them. They are kind of both. They're not really defined. So, they could, I guess, incarnate into a female form. I guess they could do that. And, I think most of them did incarnate into like a male form because they were attracted to females more. So that's why you have a lot of females that are more harassed by dark spirits than men are. So, they do a lot more to women than men do to men. They still do things to men, but it's a little bit, it's different. It's more of like putting them, it's more like they're not really trying to break that, they're trying to hurt that person, but for you, they're trying to break you down, get inside your head, trying to possess you. It's a breakdown process.
Mm. Do you think that's why some of them, did you think they chose to incarnate as a woman then? That's why you have like the goddess of war and the goddess of love and all that, Aphrodite and...
Right, exactly. You have entities playing games with people, and they're just, you know, creating the idea of these deities that aren't actually seen. Some of them are seen, and this is where you get the kings come from. So those ones who are seen are the kings of the old. You know what I mean? The like Nimrod, for example, who people would believe would be like an incarnated angelic being. Okay. So you have things like that, and in today's world, you would still have the same thing, but you probably wouldn't notice if you saw one of them. You might notice, but they look, from what I understand, they look like us. But they've described them before, and you know the Native Americans described, you know, the tall whites, serpent beings like that, but not like a reptilian, more like a human. The skin is different. It's more a luminescence type of skin. It's more like it looks human. I guess you could cover it to make it look more human.
That's in Twilight, actually. He gets that luminescent sort of skin, the vampire. When he goes in the sun, you can see it all over him.
Eyes can definitely give it away. If they're wearing shades most of the time. The stench, the odor is what's going to kind of let you know. Dogs don't like them. So, you know, those are incarnate, or they're using bodies to possess and walk around with and interact with other people. You know, this is not, you know, so there's a lot of them, but it's not, there's so many people on the planet, you know what I mean? It's not, they're not going to be in your face unless you are someone important to them. So the chances of us encountering anything like that, they might go up as the years go on, as we get closer and closer to this series of events. When those things start to play out and the veil between us and them gets thinner because of the fact that we're in a different part of space than we were before. We're in a different section, so there's different magnetic anomalies. Because those magnetic anomalies occur, they can, you know, split that window, open that window, in other words. So you actually start to see what's invisible.
Yeah.
So, you know, when that happens, you know, it's a sure sign. It's a sure sign that other things are happening in space. So those are indicators. When people start reporting more UFO activity and reporting more paranormal activity in their homes, seeing ghosts, seeing shadow men, and you know, when those reports start to pile up, that's an indicator that things are changing biologically for us, and things are changing cosmically for us. So the Earth is going through a lot of changes. Everything is connected in that way. But we're going to have to entertain some things, and you know, it's exciting, but you know, it shouldn't be too concerning. Like I said, if you're spiritually prepared, then a monster is going to scare you. There's no way you can prepare for that because you haven't seen anything like that before. If something were to jump out of the bushes, you're gonna be scared. You know what I mean? It's very hard to train yourself for that. That's why I say spiritual preparation is the first thing, because without all that physical stuff, that's all you have left. And you know, you're gonna have to get through it mentally without having a heart attack, without being so stressed out that you have a panic attack or a nervous breakdown. You just can't handle what's happening around you. And a lot of people are going to have to go through that and suffer that, unfortunately, because they're not prepared.
Honestly, we could just sit here and talk all day, but I've got so many questions. I'm going to just do a couple of quick fire questions. just to sort of finish off, because otherwise I'll just keep you here all day, and I'm sure you need to go and eat lunch soon.
Sure.
Okay, so do you think Adam and Eve were black or white?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Do you believe Adam and Eve were black or white?
I stick to the color of the earth at that time. Whatever the ground which they came from, whatever the color of the earth was then, that's what I believe, or where they were, that's the color I believe they were. So if the earth was a dark soil color, I believe they were dark skinned. If the earth was a light bleached sand color, that's the color I believe they were. Wherever they were, that's the, you know.
You think they were just the color of the soil at the time because we came from
whatever they were created from. Yeah, I believe that's.
Do you think Thoth is the moon god?
Thoth? I'm not sure about the moon god. There are angels that maintain the moon. So the moon makes short micro adjustments every few moments. It makes these micro adjustments. They don't really say that, but they do, and it adjusts to keep itself lined up like it does. So they really, well, they know why, but they don't try to explain that. So, you know, there are things like that where you have, you have real, as far as Thoth being the god of anything, you know, that would be just, you know, his is what he's telling, you know, his followers or people who believe in that deity. But like I said, these are deities who take different names wherever they go. They are principalities and powers, so they do rule over a certain section. This is why if you go into a certain area in like the UK, it feels different. That's because there's a different principality and power in that area which they govern. So that's why you can feel these things as you travel, you know, from country to country, place to place. So yeah, then they're everywhere. So they make these claims that they're this person or that person. But yeah, you know, it could be the moon of God by documentation, history. Yeah.
And do you think people with the right heart and intention can access the Creator even if they are in a different religion?
Yeah, I do believe so. I believe that's in our genetic code. I believe that we have that knowledge already embedded in our genetic code. So, you know, if we didn't have a Bible, or we didn't have a Quran or a Torah or I Ching or any of these texts, there is still a piece of our genetic code that we know, in a sense, that there is something that has fathered us.
Do you think the Great Deluge is the same as Noah's flood?
It's going to be worse than that. I think we're going to go through a series of Noah's flood type scenarios. It won't be floods. There will be floods, but it won't be a flooding of the entire globe. We're going to have some heat events, some fire events.
Do you believe Jesus died on a cross or a stake?
Yeah, they say it was a stake, which means, you know, back, if you go look at the history of crucifixion, they usually bound people above their heads. So for them to have him with arms stretched out to the sides, it would be, I think, unusual, because they usually bound people like this, which you would only need a stake for. So you would only need a tree, a pole, or something like that to bounce on.
Do you think it matters whether people believe it's a cross or a stake?
It could affect, I guess, certain narratives, you know, of what they believe in other situations, you know, but that's very it's very minute. But, you know, as you can see, people walk around with crosses. They have crosses in the church. These are symbols that go way back. They're, you know, to angelic script and things like that. They're really ancient symbols that go past before Christ. So to use that as, you know, a symbol of Christ, you know, I don't know, you know, to each his own. It's just, there are definite things you can search in history to see how crucifixions were performed. So you can make a conclusion, you know, I mean, you could say it's a cross or a stake. he was the same person who was up on it, you know what I mean? So it was just, you know, those types of challenges, you know, it's written, so whatever is written, that's what it is. Usually it'll say stake, it won't say cross, it'll say stake, or it'll say tree.
Do you believe that America is the promised land?
Promise to who?
You know, in the Bible, where is the promised land to be? Do you think that that was the promised land that they were talking about?
Well, I believe that it was a city outside, you know, of Israel, but I don't know. I'm not 100% sure of what the topography was like, you know, that long ago. So we have a lot of continental changes since that time period that they've covered up, maps that go, you know, not into the far ancient past, but in the 1700s, 1500s, we have maps that show land masses that were there but are not there anymore, you know, different locations and things like that. So yeah, we're constantly living, the earth is constantly changing its shape, its form, slowly over time. So, you know, for us to notice those changes, we'll see a mountain come up here, one disappear over here. What's happening now is things are speeding up, so those changes are going to occur very quickly. So yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely. You can put your it'd be just like how reliable are these original scriptures. So it's all a matter. It's all, you know. There's a saying out there that what we believe are facts are actually just other people's opinions. So most of what we believe are facts are just opinions. How many things have changed in the laws of physics that they had to rewrite, things in the, you know, in many sciences that they had to rewrite. When it comes to ancient texts like that, you know, you can still study the Book of Enoch. You know what I mean? It's not like they, whether it's canon or not, you know, that's not really for us to make that determination, because we can't really say that anything was inspired. It's just a matter of our interpretation of it and our faith in it. Okay, there's no way to validate any of that. There's only we can only confirm maybe people who have existed. We can confirm certain events may have occurred, but we can't.
Do you think the canonical Bible was put together to help us or to deceive us, though?
Right, it's written by several people. We can't confirm that it was God who inspired these people to write these words. It's just, you know, the church made a decision a long time ago to put certain books in the Bible. It was edited back then. Certain books have been added since then through certain editions. Constantine made changes, and there was other rulers who made changes, their own changes to it. So, you know, in Ethiopia, they still keep the Book of Enoch as canon. So in different countries, it is canon, in different countries it's not. So it's up to you to really, you know, put two and two together to do your own research, and you can connect things. You know how to use discernment to see what's real and say, okay, I'll reserve that, and then I'll come back to it. If I get more evidence and find out more about it, I'll just put that to the side for now. So,
do you think that there's a better do you think that there's a particular denomination within Christianity that is better than others? Obviously, we're going to try and stay away from Catholicism for obvious reasons, but do you think that there is a denomination within Christianity that does hold the truth?
I would say it's very safe not to get involved in rituals. Whatever religion you are involved with. So for me, I'm a Bible student, but I don't engage in any ritual activity that was set up, like, you know, for example, there are rituals in church. There are rituals. There's rituals in Christianity and Islam, and there's rituals in Buddhism and all these other religions. There are rituals. There are ways of praying. There are things you do. There are garments you wear. There are things that you engage in. My approach is to have a non-ritualistic approach to this. So I pray regularly, but that is more of a sacred thing. That is like a conversation between me sending messages to God, and then, not expecting to get communication back, but I just live a certain lifestyle because I believe, what's right. This is what's right and this is what's wrong. So I go.
What do you think about speaking in tongues?
Yeah, that's, these things are, there are things developed by the church that are controlled by fallen angels. So all these things are things that they taught to men that just got mixed up in the church, because the church is not a foundation of God. It's not God does not reside in any man-made structure. So these churches were built as monuments. They're built as symbols, instructed by these entities. So, long time ago, before we even knew.
What do they mean when they say the cutting of roots? Because I've always wondered about that. They said they taught man about makeup.
That's herbal medicine, things like that. Cutting of roots, herbal medicine, making potions, concoctions, things like that. Each part of witchcraft.
Is that sort of the pharmaceutical industry then?
Yeah, it could be considered that, alchemy.
Or is it outside of that, sort of like magic mushrooms and ayahuasca?
Yeah, they were great alchemists. They knew how to make anything you want. You could make a substance. They had this high knowledge of. They just had an understanding of elements, how things work in physics and the environment. They just have that understanding. So they taught men how to grow certain things, agriculture, how to use those for medicines, how to use them for poisons, things like that. So all types of things.
Do you think cannabis came from this planet?
I believe so, yeah. It's a very unique, that plant is almost like a creature in itself, in its composition and how strange it is. But there's other strange vegetation out there, I guess you could say, that's exotic, that we don't get to hear about too much. You know what I mean? That's, could seem like something out of Little Shop of Horrors, or
I was literally thinking that.
I have a friend who's in the hemp industry. She makes hemp oil. She processes it, and she gets her hemp from a natural source. And she goes to the farms, and she tells me how, when she gets these plants, they're almost, it's like they're alive. They want to grab hold of you. When you open up there's like all these spores and things that come out. These, it's just a very lively plant. And it's weird because it's like, it's super hard, it's super strong plant, but it's super light. And the amount of things you can make from this one plant is just extraordinary. And the nutrients in the plant, it has all the essential amino acids that you need. The protein is high protein content. Like I said, you could live off of hemp alone for months without any, you don't have to eat anything else really. Just get plenty of water and hemp, and you're good to go for a long time. So yeah, as a food source, as a clothing source, construction source, hemp is very good. It's fireproof. It's a crazy plant. It's definitely something that if you're interested to dig into.
What are your thoughts on Rastafarianism?
I'm not too familiar with the whole thing. It's another ancient tribal culture. A lot of those cultures, they go back, and yes, it is a fallen angel. It's in fallen angel origins. All of these practices, these spiritual practices, come from something. Okay, we create the rituals. These things are kind of taught to us, but we create the rituals. So it's kind of like most of this stuff is man-made, but it is taught to us in a way so that we would create our own religions out of that. But it's like anything else to me. It would be any tribal religion or spiritual rituals or anything that they partake in would go back way back in time, and you would be able to probably trace that to something else if you look at the origins of whatever you looking into, like Rastafarianism. It's it was more of how can I say pre-American before other people got a hold of it. It's kind of like a thing that's passed down generationally. But so it's not an easy thing so it becomes part of your culture, where a lot of Native Americans have witchcraft as a part of their culture, but they don't call it that. It's more of like this is how we deal with spirits, and it's not too different how we do things today. We try to do it through going to church. We try to keep these things off of us. People go in their house, they burn sage to ward off spirits. So we have our little things that we do, that were taught to us. Essentially, they attract more spirits than they get rid of, because they're not going anywhere. They're all around us. They're everywhere.
Do you think that can happen even, because I was watching something today that was talking about dream catchers and not having dream catchers and stone crystals in your house and stuff, because they all have spiritual things attached to them?
Sometimes they're made by companies who are professed witches, and like a lot of jewelry companies will put out items that have been blessed by them. So, a lot of witches, a lot of the way they support their churches of Satan is they go into the internet market, and they sell products, they sell items, things like that to support. It's not like they get regular contributions, from the general public, but so they have to find a way to support the church of theirs. So yeah, a lot of them do that. And so you can never know really what, I'm not a person who's into like a lot of things like that, like crystals and things like that. I don't believe I need any of that kind of stuff unless using it for a specific purpose, just to have it sitting in my house somewhere. I have plants in my house. I don't, that's about the feng shui. That's the energy, I want to have in my home. I try to keep symbolic things out, try to keep things that would have things attached to them, and try to keep them out. But usually have no issues.
And what are your thoughts about people who believe that Jehovah's Witnesses is a cult?
Yeah, I could see where they get that from, but it's the same thing with all religions. It's just going to be the same story. Mormons, Islam, it just goes on and on. There you have the radical part of it, not so radical part of it. You have people who have good experiences. Yeah, it's all depends on your experience, I think, and what you conclude at the end of the day, but essentially, them being a cult, I know I can see where that comes from, and yeah, it does have it has a it's fairly new, so it's only been around for 50, 60 years or so, and they are global, but their approach is not really the same as the Christian church or the Catholic church. And so, yeah, you're going to have opposition there because there's more of a business in Catholicism. There's more of a business there. So, you know, Jehovah's Witnesses, they have their Watchtower Society, which is also a business. So when you get these entities, of course, there's always room for corruption, and you're going to have people who are in these organizations who do corrupt things. And, you know, I mean, it's not, these are not institutions that are really protected by God. It's like you have to be, it's something more than that. You know what I mean? You have to have a kind of a relationship with God. If you follow the biblical narrative through Christ, okay? I don't want to tell people like how to communicate. It's just that's what they, as far as a Christian, that's what a Christian believes. Through Christ, you can communicate with God. Due to that happening of dissension, and then, you know, being born and resurrected and things like that. So, you know, I could see where people are getting that cult thing from, but you know, I mean, my experience is they were mostly nice people, but you're going to get that in any church. You're going to get nice, warm people, and behind, you know, closed doors, you're going to get different people because everyone acts differently behind closed doors. So, you know, like I said, I'm not a congregation type of person, so I don't really like crowds of people. I don't like getting into groups and getting any routines and relearning something I want to do. You know, I'd rather have like a one-on-one. You know, it doesn't matter what religion, but I would like to have a one-on-one with people when we discuss things of that nature, because you can really get into more factual things than, you know, we have crowds. It's just, you know, can't get into
crowds. When Jesus talks about the great crowd, what do you think he's referring to?
Oh, the same crowd of people who are being pulled up to rule as kings, that great crowd, that 144,000, that them, you know, there's a thing that could also be referring to the people who are still alive after everything comes to an end. These are the people who are rebuilding. So that could be the great crowd as well. But essentially, it's the people who are who come after destruction, I guess you could say, or after the tribulation. This is after judgment. These are the people. This is the great crowd that he sees ruling the earth.
Oh, it's been so amazing. But just to wrap up, what are your hopes for the rest of 2021?
Just, you know, I take it day by day. You know, I just hope people are waking up to what's going on. It doesn't seem like it seems like what's surprising to me is there's a lot more people that are asleep than I thought there was. And so therefore, there's a lot more people that are going to have to wake up. Not everyone's going to make it, but towards the end of this year, I hope that we can be in a place we're past the point of this pandemic. We're going to have something else hit us. I'm not sure what that's going to be, but, you know, people should get ready for that. And hopefully we can move past this pandemic phase and learn from it and look forward to something better.
What future projects do you have coming up?
Oh, I've got a few things in the works. I also do game development, so I have to do a lot of work in that area. Animation and things like for the website I've been working on. So written news stories, live streams, and things like that are coming. It takes a long time. It takes a lot to set up, especially.
Do you do your own animation?
Everything pretty much that you see is done.
So the FOF video, is that all of your animation?
Yeah, all that is done.
Oh, amazing.
you know, a lot of things that I do were learned prior to me putting it all together into one package. So, you know, I did learn sound production, you know, music production a long time ago, and I've been working on that. Video editing, I've been doing that since high school. So a lot of these things, you know, the truther stuff is a lot of things that I've been studying over the years. I wrote articles before I did YouTube, so I had the writing part down. So, you know, all these things together is what Woodward TV is. So, you know, that's where I'm at right now.
Thank you so much for your time today.
It's been great.
Amazing. Yeah, really, really good. I probably have like thousands of questions that are going to come to me at 8 o'clock in the morning. Why didn't you ask that? But it's been really good to speak to you. And yeah, we're looking forward to the next episode of Woodward TV.
Absolutely. It's coming soon.
Thank you so much for your time today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Oh, absolutely. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jae Woodward, for joining us today. It has been so amazing, so exciting, and we thank you so much from the bottom of our heart. We hope you enjoyed it. This has been me, Mama C. Love to the world. Peace out.
Remember, stay awake, stay aware, stay safe, and I'll talk to you all soon.